So, John Muir said, the power of imagination makes us infinite. The power of imagination makes us infinite. So, when I talk to leaders, the one thing that I can tell you is that most successful leaders understand that vision is a really important part of that, right? And vision requires a certain amount of imagination. So I'll give you a great example. John Maxwell, he talks about the 21 laws of leadership, and the one law he talks about is navigation. He says, listen, anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course, right? So there's certain types of work that we do that, quite frankly, I use the term sometimes that any trained monkey will do, right? So you can, literally train a robot to do some work for you, but that doesn't mean that they know where you're going and how to get there, okay? So my question to you is, how do you use your imagination? So, when we become adults, typically we put aside our imagination, right? That's child's play. Why would we do that? Don't daydream, right? When in reality, we can use our imagination to inform our vision. And I'm going to tell you a couple examples about that. So, for example, these three examples are things that I've actually walked through a coaching client with. So they are leaders, some of them leaders of very large teams, okay? So the first example is using your imagination to develop your ideal team, okay? So realizing that there's a certain way to do business that says, hey, here's our positions, here's the job that needs to be filled, here's the job descriptions, hire somebody for that job description, right? Well, you can up-level that a little bit by coming in and saying, okay, let's look at it a little different. So here's all the stuff that needs to get done. Here's the kind of person or skill level or character of people that we need to have in these positions. Then you start attracting those people. So for example, if hey, we need somebody who's really curious, ask really great questions, and can spur a group on to think. Great. Invite them to the table, right? And as you're building out your team, instead of saying, okay, the sales manager has to do X, Y, and Z, you can look and say, well, wait a minute, what is the sales manager really good at? Okay? And so you begin what we call this job crafting. Now, many people understand job crafting as this idea of, are you going to work from home or not, right? And of course, in this current pandemic structure, that's even blown out the window, right? Whether you have a choice or not, you're probably working from home. So job crafting is really the idea that you would come together and say, all right, for example, there's 100 different tasks that need to be done, and we've got 20 people on our team. Now, normally what you would do is you would say, hey, let's be fair and equitable and give everybody 5 things to do. Well, maybe you've got people on your team that, quite frankly, they should only be doing 2 things, right? Because that's what they're really, really good at. Or maybe you've got somebody on your team who could take 6 or 7 things because they're small and they could get them done, right? Or perhaps you have 3 or 4 people who their combined skill set would allow them to do maybe 10 of those together, right? So really looking at what do you need to do and how do you need to develop your team so that you can maximize the work that you do. Okay, that's using your imagination to really flesh that out. Another issue that I've dealt with before with a coaching client was thinking through your ideal way to serve your client. So this gentleman, he works in a fairly large organization. There's about 2,000 employees, and about 200 of them work just in the customer service realm. And so they're on the phones all day. They're answering questions. They're taking care of problems. And he set aside, I think we went through 3 or 4 different phone calls where we were just imagining, in a perfect world, what would it look like for his team to have perfect customer service. So in essence, he was using his imagination, and throughout that process, he found, oh, wow, we need to tweak a couple of our processes over here, or, hey, you know, when we're hiring or doing our onboarding, we need to change a few things, right? So again, using that imagination to gain information and insight so that you can create a new vision for your people. For some reason, I've got 3 or 4 clients right now who are in some form of what I call a legacy change, right? They realize that within the next 5 years, I'm going to retire, or they know that they're going on to a new position, but they don't necessarily know how to help the people who are coming behind them. This is a great place where you can use your imagination, really sitting and taking some time and thought and thinking through, okay, when I do retire in 5 years, not just who do I want to take over for me, but how do I want that to occur, right? All right, maybe I'm going to a new position and I know I'm going to leave in 2 or 3 weeks, right? How do I help the people understand why I'm going, where I'm going, what I'm going to be doing, and continue that connection with them, right? And then there's this whole other realm of not just you as the leader using your imagination, but how do you help your people use their imagination, right? And your people, let's face it, you don't have to be a CEO or a manager. Your people could be, you know, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you've only got 2 employees, or maybe you're a parent and you've got a few kids, right? Or we have a lot of young people who are following us now who don't necessarily have a leadership position yet, but maybe your people are your friends or your family. One way that you could help your people with their imagination is by helping them to solve problems. So instead of coming right in and saying, hey, this is how you solve your problem, right? That teach, tell, boss method. You could sit down and say, you know what if you were to solve this problem, what would your definition of success be? Like, what would make it all worth it? And really encourage them to use their imagination to come up with whatever their ideal is. Another way I've been using this is with people who are having issues with relationships. So rather than going into what we call the drama script, right? So let's say you've had a negative interaction with somebody and you're reviewing that and you're like, oh, I could have said this, or he could have said this, or I wish he did that, or, you know, that kind of thing. Saying, stop. In a perfect world, how would you like to relate to that person? What would you be saying? What would they be saying? How would you feel, right? And when you begin to flesh out that dream, then all of a sudden your subconscious brain has an image that it can follow after. And the last example I'll share with you is, I deal with a lot of people in transition. And they're thinking about, what is this next thing for me, right? Many of them come to me and they know, the only thing they know is, I don't want to be in this job, okay? And they have really good reasons for that. However, leaving a job is not good enough. You've got to go towards something. And so we flesh out, how might that look for you? What might you be doing? Who might you be helping? That's all using your imagination. Okay, some people call it thinking, some people call it planning or reflecting. In reality, it's using your imagination. So your imagination informs your vision, and from your vision you have a change, and from there you have infinite possibilities. So John Muir, he said, the power of imagination makes us infinite. Okay? If you are interested in 10 tips on using your thinking better in order to get the results that you want, listen, tomorrow night we are having our live teaching call. It's a conference call. It's not a Zoom. You don't have to show up and hide your face. You just dial into the conference call. You're not going to be recorded or anything. Just, you can be listening. Honestly, you can be listening. We have a lot of people who decide to go do their workout. They listen while they put their kids to bed. You name it, cleaning your kitchen, whatever. So tomorrow night we're going to have our live teaching call on self-image mastery, and I'm going to share with you 10 tips on how to use your thinking better. imagination might be one of them, okay? So if you want to know more, I'll put all of that information in the description and you can grab that. I hope you can come and join us. And if you cannot, let me just say this, it will be recorded. We'll probably have it on our podcast or something the next day, just so you know. All right. Thank you guys for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I hope this has been helpful. And guess what? Go out there and use your imagination for something today. Practice your imagination muscle. Awesome. With that, I release you into the wild. Go forth and prosper. Have an amazing day, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.